Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's Bear Facts Friday. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to tune in. As always, I'm going to try to filter down the information. Mark will give you his perspective on things, and Lisa, as we missed her last week, is back to give us the words of wisdom that I know we all crave. So excited about that. But here's what I'd like to filter out the information, the noise of the week is, and we've been hearing this a lot from clients, a lot from just people in general. You'll see it on the news, is how the real economy is so much different than the stock market. And they're just not one and the same thing. They're just two completely separate beasts. Now, they can be related to one another, but they aren't identical. And that's why you can have an economy that has 40 million unemployed, and you can have 5 trillion stimulus and a pandemic and all that's going on, and a stock market that has rebounded tremendously, because the future expected cash flows of these companies still look relatively good. And that's why you've seen a market do really well when an economy has done really bad. And oftentimes the best time to invest is when the economy itself craters and is at its worst. The best example is going back to 2009. That was the bottom of the depths of the Great Recession. Highest unemployment numbers, worst economy, the best time to put your money to work. If you put your money to work, then today, 11 years later, you're looking at 300% return on your money, even with all the ups and downs in between. So just something to remember. The economy is not the market, and the market is not necessarily the economy. Mark?
All right, thanks, Kenny. This week, for perspective, I want to talk about decision making and ultimately trade-offs that come with those decisions. I feel like every single day, each of us, we're faced with seemingly hundreds of different decisions. Some may be really immaterial and you might not even notice them. And then on the flip side, we're also faced with some pretty significant decisions. Maybe it is you're looking to buy tickets to a football game you want to go to and deciding, well, do I buy them at face value now, or do I try and get in at the gate at a cheaper price? Maybe you are selling a house and you've got one buyer kind of locked up but at a lower price, but there's still a couple other potential offers or buyers that are out there, and you're thinking to yourself, bird in the hand versus two in the bush. The same thing can go with investing as well. In any sound investment strategy, you've got to consider the trade-offs of what you're getting into on the front end. That's the really key part. And knowing that that what decision you make today will impact you down the line. And it might not be immediate, could be a little ways out or a long ways out, and it could be somewhat severe or kind of severe, or very severe. But the decisions that you make, they all come with trade-offs. So I love this example. It reminds me of Deal or No Deal. Essentially, hey, are you going to flip the coin and pick another case and risk losing this guaranteed, this offer that you have here, or this certainty to try to get $1 million? Or are you going to flip the coin and potentially lose a couple $100,000 and only wind up with 200,000? So when it comes to any of life's decisions, whether you're buying tickets to a game or selling a house or also putting together your investment portfolio, think about those types of things on the front end, and it'll help you get through it.
Hey, everybody. If you ask anybody over the age of 30 what they want the end of their life to look like, no one is going to enthusiastically tell you that they can't wait to move into an assisted living facility. A study conducted by AARP showed that less than 25% of all people over 50 want to move out of their homes. Now, with the new COVID situation and all of the stay-at-home orders, I've been on the phone a lot more with my mom, more than usual. And I kind of started noticing, she's in her mid-80s. I started noticing a bit of an easiness in her normal glass is overflowing persona. When I called her on it and asked her to, finally got her to open up about it, she admitted that now that she's been forced to stay at home and take full-time care of my stepfather, whose physical strength is starting to leave him, she said that they are becoming more uncertain of their ability to, their dream of fulfilling that dream of staying in their home. So we started talking a little bit about looking at life through a little bit of a different lens. And so just for the sake of conversation, I said, let's come up with some, see what we can do now, and let's start talking about what we can do in the future. So these are conversations that we can all have with either our children to prepare them and us for our turn at this, or we maybe need to have this conversation with our parents. So some of the things that Mom and I have already started taking action on to make things a little easier for her and to increase her confidence is we just grab some of the low-hanging fruit. Since mobility is a problem for my stepdad, we got rid of all of the area rugs in the house. We've rearranged the furniture so that his walker is easier to move from room to room. We relocated the coffee pot just so it was easier for him. He didn't have to take his walker all the way into the kitchen. We've moved it into a little table outside the kitchen for him so that he can fix his own coffee and maintain some of his independence. One of her greatest thrills is they actually pulled out one of those old 1980 jacuzzi tubs that was 3 feet deep and put in a walk-in tub. So now in addition to their walk-in shower, they've got a tub alternative that she's just been exhilarated about. So next on the list, we're going to switch out some of the door handles, the doorknobs in their home, or all of those round ones that are difficult for my stepdad to grab with his hand and actually be able to turn and pull at the same time. We're going to install some of those levered handles for him so that he can just kind of whack at it and pop the door open much easier. So, other things that you could, we don't have to focus on or talk about that just don't exist for us, is, but you should think about it might be appropriate for your situation is, always focus on the first floor. That's going to be the ease of access for everybody moving around. So do what you need to there and just eliminate the need for that going up and down flights of stairs. Widening doorways, putting in hardwood surfaces other than carpet instead of carpet, and things of that nature. Now, outside of the logistics of just the house, some of the things that I found some other people who have gone through this have given me advice on is put together that plan B and C or D if you need to go that far, and talk about the conditions that might trigger the need for moving from one dream of staying in your home to another one. As I explained to my mother, there's a good possibility that we never have to make that choice, but at least we have the plan in place, because it's much easier to have the conversation today when we can sit and talk and evaluate our options than it is to have to find ourselves in an emergency situation and have to have a decision right now. Some of the other things that we've been working on is getting all of her documents in order, making sure she had, all of her wills are updated, her living will, power of attorney, and all of that, and that somebody in the family knew where all of that was and had access to it. My brother, who is an executor of her will, has already started talking with her financial advisors and building a relationship with them so that, he's got the access to them and all the permissions that he needs in the event that my mom and stepdad are not able to make wise decisions. Some of the other things that people have advised me on is just to watch for warning signs, such as impulsive behaviors, spending money in ways that aren't really sensible or outside of their normal pattern. Self-isolation, where they start to withdraw, is another sign. It's kind of hard to pick that out now because they are still under the stay-at-home at their age. They don't need to be out and about. Conversations with new people all of a sudden showing up in their lives that you don't know or no one in your family is familiar with, that could be exploiting their lives. But anyway, whether you're talking about, I've been talking about what we're going through in our family with my parents, my mom, but this could also be very applicable and appropriate for me talking with my daughter and her family. just so everybody's prepared. Now is a good time to get this conversation started and take action so that when you're in your 70s and 80s, you can enjoy Six Flags and go dancing like Kenny is going to. So
Absolutely. I think that is a picture of myself. That's a picture of the future.
I did. I aged it for you.
Well, yes, I mean, thanks again for excellent words of wisdom. I mean, it's so true. We all, a lot of us are dealing with it, whether our parents are there yet or will be. I mean, it's something that we're all going to have to deal with is, living, once you get older and making sure that, older loved ones are taken care of and taking that responsibility. There's just a lot to that, and being aware of any signs of elder abuse and just making sure you're aware is really the first step to making sure that you can prevent anything like that. So I want to thank everybody so much for joining us today. Y'all have a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed. As always, reach out to us if there's anything you think we could do for you.